Honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon.
Liberals knew that the carbon tax was costing Canadians billions of dollars. They knew and they covered it up. The cost, $25 billion a year. That works out to $1,800 each and every year cost for every single Canadian family. You wonder why it's hard to pay for things? This is why. If the average Canadian went into work and lied and covered something up, they'd be fired. Will the Prime Minister fire this radical environment minister who tried to cover this all up from Canadians?
He's a failure.
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, if anyone should resign in this House, it's the people who are misleading Canadians about the benefit of carbon pricing. $25 billion of less pollution in this country because of carbon pricing. We have a plan to work with Canadians to help them better prepare to face the impacts of climate change. They have nothing. No plans for adaptation, no plan to reduce the amount of pollution, and no plan for the economy, Mr. Speaker. If anyone should resign, it should be them over there.
The Honourable Member from Dufferin-Caledon.
You want to talk about misleading Canadians? Pretending you have an environmental plan. Greenhouse gas emissions actually went up year over year. Canada is now ranked 62nd out of 67 for emissions performance reductions. We're now ranked with the low-performing countries. All the while, they're bankrupting Canadians while these limousine Liberals drive around and preach, you should just take it. It's all a pack of lies, Mr. Speaker. This environment minister should be fired for covering up the truth of the cost of the carbon tax for Canadians. Will he resign?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, I would invite the member to update his speaking notes, which date back to many months. We've just received, in fact, the Climate Scorecard 2024 Government Climate Leadership Award, Mr. Speaker. Canada. One of the best performance in terms of greenhouse gas emission reduction since 2019 in all of the G7, Mr. Country, something that never happened under the Conservative government of Canada, that will never happen under a Conservative government of Canada.
Hear, hear.
L'honorable député de Mégantic.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The radical environment minister must resign or be fired. End of story. First, he misled Canadians by falsely claiming that the carbon tax was good for Canadians from a financial standpoint. Then he hid a study from Canadians, a study conducted by his own department, which proved the opposite. When the budget officer found out, the minister gagged him by preventing him from releasing it and referencing it, and then he tried to ruin the PBO's reputation. The report is clear, though. The economic damage of the carbon tax will cost Canadian families almost $2,000 a year. When will the minister be fired for his economic extremism? The Honourable Environment and Climate Change Minister. Mr. Speaker, if someone should resign from this place, it's the member who just spoke, who last campaigned saying that he would price pollution, that he would fight pollution. Now he's turning his back on his own promises. On that side, they have no plan for Canadians, no plan for the environment, no plan to fight climate change. No plan at all. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Well, you know what he did, Mr. Speaker? He desperately tried to hide the fact that Quebecers are paying a very high price for the federal carbon tax, and they're doing so with the support of the Bloc Québécois. Despite his claims that Quebecers are not paying the carbon tax, his own figures, which the Conservatives forced them to reveal, tell a very different story. The report that he was so determined to hide shows that the economic cost of the carbon tax is $5 billion for Quebec. $5 billion for Quebecers. Seems to me that that's 5 billion reasons, good reasons, that the minister should resign. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Well, it's interesting to see the Conservative Party of Canada continue to demonstrate and prove their total ignorance when it comes to climate change. The member just now turned around. He should turn around and talk to the member behind him, who was part of the Quebec provincial government when it implemented a pollution pricing system well before Ottawa did. And the member knows full well that our carbon tax does not apply in Quebec. It applies elsewhere in the country.
Député d'Avignon, honourable member from Lakeland.
Common sense Conservatives got proof that the Liberals kicked and screamed to hide, but most Canadians already know. After 9 years, the NDP Liberals' carbon tax is not worth the cost. It will gouge Canada's economy for about $30 billion. That's almost $2,000 for every household each year. In Lakeland, a family farm paid nearly $500 in carbon tax in 1 month. An agricultural group paid $5,000 in just 6 months, both before the April 1st hike. So will the Environment Minister finally just admit his failed carbon tax is a cash grab and resign?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would invite my honourable colleague to actually go and have a conversation with the 300 economists who have validated that 8 out of 10 families get more money back, that the price on pollution is a driver of innovation, is a driver of investment in our economy. Across the aisle, we have a Conservative Party in this country that denies the existence of climate change and has no economic plan to ensure prosperity in the future for people from coast to coast to coast. It is truly a shame. They are abandoning the future of our children and the future of our country.
Absolutely. The Honourable Member from Lakeland.
Well, he should actually listen to what Canadians are pleading with him about, because emissions are up and so are the price of everything. It's all a sham. But the truth is, not once did the 1,200-page analysis show Canadians are better off with their carbon tax and rebate. The worst thing is the Prime Minister fought to hide those real costs of his agenda, even though he's never had to worry about affording anything in his entire life. He has the gall to tell Canadians that paying more for gas, heat and groceries makes them better off, just like hiking taxes on small business and farmers he claims makes Canadians better off. So none of it is true, and none of it's worth the cost or the cover-up. So if the fibbing Environment Minister won't resign, will the PM finally just fire him?
The honourable member is an experienced member, and that is getting very close to the line in terms of what is acceptable parliamentary behaviour. I will look at that question a little bit more carefully. The honourable member, the honourable minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honourable colleague and her colleagues across the aisle may be entitled to their own opinions, but they are not entitled to their own facts. The fact is that emissions are down in a significant way. The fact is that 300 economists, experts in their field, say that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back. Those are facts, Mr. Speaker. What's also a fact is that party across the way has no plan to address climate change, no plan for the economic future of the country. It is also the case that they all campaign on putting in price on pollution. If anybody should resign, it's those members opposite.
The honourable member from Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fix is in. Last week, Conservatives forced the reveal of the secret report that the Prime Minister and his carbon tax-obsessed Environment Minister covered up, confirming that carbon tax costs families almost $2,000 per year, and every year $30 billion in lost economic productivity. Liberals are so desperate to hide the truth, they publicly smeared and gagged the independent budget officer. When will the Minister of Economic Environment Vandalism resign, or better yet, get fired?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that question, I believe, has been asked and answered several times already today. My question for the Conservatives is, why should a dollar earned from working, whether it be as an insurance broker, as a fish plant worker, as a construction worker, as a cashier, Mr. Speaker, why should a dollar earned from working be taxed higher than a dollar received as a profit from the sale of an investment? Why is it that a person flipping burgers pays a higher tax rate than a person flipping stocks, Mr. Speaker?
Order.